Stephanie's not playing with y'all. Stephanie is not playing with these ladies. She acting like this is her fifth season, and you know what? I'm kind of here for it. You're a little annoying with your braggadocious type of shit, but you all right. Julia, girl.
Welcome to the Asia Esterak Hour, where film meets conspiracy and pop culture gets a reality check. From sharp recaps to sci-fi theories and media deep dives, Asia Esterak serves it unfiltered. Let the binge begin.
Okay, welcome back to the Asia Esterak Hour. I'm Asia Esterak. All right, y'all, let's get into it. Okay, the Real Housewives of Miami, season 7, episode 10. Okay, so we are on our way to Seville, Spain. Let's do this. All right, so the ladies are getting ready for Spain. Um, Miss Stephanie is a trip, y'all. So Miss Stephanie is meeting the ladies at her private jet that are flying with her, and that is Larsa, Julia, and Adriana. The rest of the ladies are flying internet or commercial, flying regular like us regular folk. So on Stephanie's plane, they're flying and they're talking about the dynamic between the ladies. And Adriana mentions that about Julia inviting her on the plane. And then Julia's like, actually it was Kiki that got you here. So then Adriana's like, so my own friend didn't even suggest me on the plane to be on the plane. And she's just like, let me tell you something. This episode, we really see Julia shows her ass in the best way possible because people are finally seeing these other ladies. When I mean people are finally seeing she ain't shit at all. We're seeing it in real time too. So they're talking about that. Stephanie, of course, brings up the whole Alexia thing. Julia tries to defend Alexia. She's like, well, I just, Alexia isn't normally like that. And Adriana is looking at her like, even in her confessional, she was like, oh, you're defending your friend Alexia. And it was weird. So the other ladies, they all get to the airport because they're going on their commercial flight. And of course, Lisa's not there because Lisa's late, like all the time. By the way, Lisa missed her flight completely, came the next day and had to travel all by herself, had to have a layover in London, and then went straight up to Spain, took a train up to Seville. Girl, a mess. She didn't even come into the end. Really crazy. But anyway, so they had a fun time on the private jet. Um, Stephanie actually bought the ladies this her what's her last name? Shoma or something? Shoma Air pajamas for them to wear on the private jet. They were cute. I think she dresses terribly personally, but I'll say this, that little pink outfit, magenta thing from head to toe, magenta pink, whatever with the shoes. I have a pair of shoes like that. I was here for that whole outfit. Other than that, and her one confessional, it was like a bronze dress she was wearing. She looked good in that confessional. But for somebody that drops labels every 5 seconds, you do not dress well. That lets me know that you are new money. I like Stephanie. Actually, let me preface that. I'm hot and cold with her because sometimes she's great and sometimes she's really irritating and seems way too familiar. But I feel like this particular episode, she let all these chicks know, like, we're not doing this. You're not doing this to me. So I was here for it. So they had fun. They had a little dance party on the private jet. The other ladies, of course, didn't get a lot of sleep on a commercial flight. It is what it is. So they get to Spain and obviously I forgot to mention Larsa was on the private jet too. She didn't say a whole lot. That's why I didn't mention her. But so they get to Spain first. They get they get to they get to their hotel rooms, and Julia said that she was giving the like the big suite to Alexia because the trip is supposedly based on her, whatever. Um they get there, and of course Stephanie's husband Masood upgraded her to what? A big ass suite as well, and actually had a bunch of shit in there, a bunch of flowers, gifts. was really nice. It was actually really nice. And of course the ladies were, you could tell they was a little jelly about it, but it's, whatever. Here's what's funny. So they all get to their rooms. They go back down to the lobby, like bar area, wherever they were. That's area. What's up, Harriet? So Harriet never makes appearances in my videos. Harriet, you want to talk about the Real Housewives of Miami, girl? So they go back downstairs, and it was funny. Stephanie's like, I've never been on a trip without Masood, like a girl's trip. And then she's like, I like to be around him all the time and cuddle with him. I bet you do, because you just turned 40. You don't want no young bitches around him that might take that man from you. So anyway, so they're down there and they're chatting. The other ladies arrive, and Julia walks up to Alexia and she's like, "We were talking about you." And it was funny because the way she said it to Alexia, it was almost like she was doing it like damage, like trying to get ahead of it just in case Alexia found out that they were talking about her on the plane. It gave, I just want to make sure I'm good type of energy. And it was funny because the way she put her hands on Alexia's shoulder, and Alexia was like, "What?" She was like, "Man, they could fuck off." And then she's like, "Why are you talking about me? Like, why would you come up to me and tell me that?" And I agree. Like, why would that be the first thing you say to somebody after traveling the way that they did? Why would you tell her that? She's whack. So of course, Stephanie, Larsa, and I believe, Adriana, they all hear this shit. So they're like, and Adriana's just like, "Oh my God." So, Gertie's with them, Marisol, Kiki. And of course, everybody's asking, "Where's Lisa?" So, of course, they tell them that Lisa missed her flight. Here's what's wild though: Lisa didn't even text anybody to tell them that she was late, that she was running late, or that she missed her flight. They all just assumed it because it's her MO to always be late. But the fact that she didn't tell anyone is kind of wild. Alexia actually didn't like that. She expresses that in her confessional. I agree. Because if we're all on a girls' trip and we know how your goofy ass is, Lisa, you miss your flight and you had to do a whole international leg by yourself, including the whole train ride. That was kind of crazy. So Alexia, Marisol, Kiki, and Gertie, they all go up to their rooms. Um, Stephanie, my filter just came out. You guys almost saw what I really look like. Ah! So anyway, so Stephanie, of course, because Stephanie don't mince no words. I gotta give it to her. She does not mince words at all. I love a girl that gets straight to the point, even if I don't like that shit. Give it to me straight. So she's like, "Why are you stirring the pot? Why did you go and tell Alexia we were talking about her? We weren't even saying anything negative, right?" So Julia, actually, sorry, sidebar, let's change that real quick. So before before any of the ladies, even the other ladies get there, when they're down at that bar situation, Stephanie is talking about Alexia, and she does say, "I feel like with Alexia, maybe it's an insecurity thing. I mean, I don't know. This her whole situation with Todd," and she's like, maybe she's just insecure and she goes to sleep insecure, some shit like that. Stephanie, that was a lot. Stephanie is overly familiar. She's evasive. I mean, that's clearly her personality. It's a love it or hate it thing. I feel like that type. Let me start that again. Scratch that, reverse it, as Willy Wonka would say. I feel like Stephanie be doing too much with her evasiveness, and she's very direct, which is fine. But I think her making comments like saying that Alexia is insecure, and she said some other shit too. I'm like, girl, that's a lot. Like, stop. Um, and then for her to say, "Well, I like Alexia. If you like her, you like her. You do. You sure you like her? Because this shit you was saying don't sound like somebody you like." I don't know. I mean, we're only 10 episodes in, and this appears to be who you are. I like you sometimes I don't. So anyway, so fast forward to what I was saying. So she said all that before they got there. They came, Julia did her dumb shit. So now she addresses Julia about talking about going up to Alexia. Julia, of course, her face, because she's like, it's like, you're not used to getting checked, clearly. clearly. So Julia's like, no, I was just telling her, lying. No, I just want to tell her, like, oh, hey, we were talking about you. That's not how you, that's not even, that wasn't even the energy when you said that shit to Alexia. You were being messy. So Stephanie kind of digs into her, and then Julia's like, Stephanie, I like you, don't talk to me like that. And Stephanie's just kind of like, whatever. And so they're like, I think Larsa's like, can we do a cheers? Because they had a shot or a drink in front of them. So Stephanie's like, let's cheers to my real friends, or she says something like that. And Julia's like, Julia leaves, and they're all talking about her still. And Adriana's like, I don't know who this Julia is. And Stephanie's just like, why? We're having a good time. Is she trying to ruin the trip? And Larsa's like, why would she say that? Um, because she's trashed and she's trying to be friends with the cool girls because she's not cool. And it's weird because it's like, you were not. What happened to you over? What happened, Julia? Something happened because you have not acted like this at all. I hate that I have to drag you every episode, but I fucking will. That shit you did to Gertie was unforgivable. I'm sorry. Period. So anyway, um, the rest of them leave. The other ladies, they go up to their rooms. Their rooms are cute. And they, want to check in on Lisa. This is when they learn that Lisa is on a train to meet them in Seville. And of course, they're all making fun of that because that's hilarious. I mean, Lisa can't even tie her shoes, child. At one point when they're talking about Lisa, Larsa actually mentions this in the first episode, one of the first scenes of this episode. But she talks about how, her and Lisa are still, they're going through the growing pains with their friendship. And of course, she mentions the fact that Lisa is still following her ex, Marcus Jordan, on Instagram. Larsa, who cares at this point? Why do you care? Talking about if she was my friend, well, maybe she's not your friend. And we can see that next week this stuff is still gonna load up. I don't know. It's funny, like it's like these group of ladies are all frenemies. I know that's like the norm on the Housewives, but this season with Miami, they were divided at one point, then not divided. Now there's like division within the inner circle. It's a lot going on. It's a lot of nonsense. So the ladies are getting ready to go to this restaurant that Julia and actually Marisol is set up for Alexia, and they're in their little glam room in the hotel room, and Marisol and Alexia are getting their hair and makeup done, and Marisol's like, me and Julia, we're really excited for you on this trip and we just want you to have a good time. And Alexia is like, speaking of Julia, and she's like, I thought it was really weird that she came up to me and said that they were talking about me and she was smiling. And Marisol's like, oh yeah. And Alexia's like, I don't even know what they were saying. I just thought it was, weird that she came up. And so Marisol's like, well, maybe it isn't that bad. Let's be positive, some shit like that. The way Homegirl walked up to her wasn't positive. So over in Stephanie and Larsa's hotel room, glam room, um, it's wild. So Larsa answers her personal cell and basically reveals that she kind of has a stalker. She says some guy keeps calling her from different phone numbers and telling her that he has a crush on her. That's creepy. So Stephanie's like, Larsa, I think you should stop dating athletes. I think you should date like a businessman or something. But it seems like you only date athletes. And Larsa's like, no, I'll date whoever, whoever likes me. So this was kind of funny. So her makeup artist or hairdresser, whoever he was like, Larsa just wants to be a MILF. He wasn't lying. And she was like, no. And he's like, no, if she met, his analogy was terrible. He was like, if Larsa had to pick between a 75-year-old with a huge bank account and a 25-year-old with a huge bank account, we know she's going to pick the 25-year-old. Anybody under the age of 60, anybody under the age of 70 would have picked the 25-year-old with the money. That was a weird analogy. And of course, Stephanie's like, well, duh. So they all kind of laugh about that. And then Julia's name pops up again. And they're talking about that it was weird that she said something to Alexia. And Larsa had a great point. She's just like, I hope that what she said to her doesn't like ruin her time here in Spain. We're kind of here for her. And Stephanie is like, listen, um, these ladies, if anybody comes for me, I'm gonna come for you tenfold. And you know what? We know that about you. Cause you came out from episode 1 doing the most.com. Whatever. You know what, Stephanie? Sometimes I love you, sometimes I don't. So anyway, all the ladies go to this restaurant. They have this singer there, and what are they? Flamenco singer? Is that what they're calling him? Flamenco. So he starts singing to Alexia, and Alexia is tearing up. Actually, she starts. Marisol's crying too. The dude's voice was I loved it. I probably would have been crying too. I low key love shit like that. I happen to love opera. Anytime there's operatic, if it's Leontine Price, Pavarotti, Bocelli, anybody, baby, I'm like, ugh, just getting old. Maybe I was, one of my past lives. I know I was alive back then, and it's probably why I appreciate that shit now. Shout out to Edgar Casey and his past life um, research. But anyway, so the guy is singing to Alexia, and his voice they had the subtitles, and of course it was about a man and all that, and it was getting to Alexia. So Lars's ass is looking at this, and in her confessional she's like, I don't understand what's going on. Why is she crying? Why is she crying? That was kind of funny, but you could tell. Well, here's you can tell that Alexia is going through it. This shit with Todd is putting her through the most, and just the way she broke down when that man was singing to her, and even Marisol was like, wow. um but it was nice. I liked it. I thought it was cute. I thought it was awesome. And the other ladies were just like, even Kiki was like, okay. So the guy stops singing and the girls start eating and the bullshit starts. So they briefly, this is when when the whole group learns about Lisa taking the train up. They're all kind of laughing about that, like, oh my God. Julia expresses that she's annoyed. This is the only time I agreed with you in this episode, Julia. Because she was like, the fact that she hasn't reached out to any of us, she has all our phone numbers. Like, this is unacceptable. We planned this whole trip. She could just, she could have reached out. Again, I said this earlier in this review, but it is weird that she didn't reach out. But okay. So Larson's like, let's stop talking about Lisa. So, so Alexia thanks everybody for, for inviting her up and the trip and everything. And she's, she says all that. And then, actually, no, Marisol starts talking. And Marisol's like, did you guys, when you guys got here, didn't the vibe seem kind of weird? And, they were like, Kiki's like, yeah, because it was the private jet group and then us, and it was kind of like, oh, you guys are here. And so of course Alexia's like, yeah, and then Julia tells me that you guys were talking about me, and the shit starts. So the focus zeroes in on Stephanie and Alexia. They start going back and forth, and Alexia is like, I just feel like, you haven't really gotten to know me. You've gotten to know the other ladies, but it seems like all you have is judgment for me. And she's like, I don't understand, I don't understand what the issue is, basically. Stephanie is like this, looking at her. Well, first of all, Stephanie is like she ain't type A, she's type AAA. Homegirl is not playing with these ladies. And what's funny in this scene is where I determined that Alexia and Stephanie are the fucking same. Y'all are the same. You guys have the same ego. So they start going back and forth. And Stephanie is like, she's like, I didn't say anything bad. And she's like, but I felt like you were judging me. And then at one point, Stephanie is like, first of all, I'm gonna do me, and I'm sorry that you were offended by what I said, but the truth hurts. So Alexia gets loud and she's like, this is what I mean. And then Stephanie's like, you're insecure. Like, I'm sorry. She goes, you're insecure. And then she's like, whoa, I'm Alexia. That was hilarious. Stephanie not playing. Stephanie is not playing with these ladies. Her level of confidence is fucking amazing. I gotta get, girl, you got Cersei Lannister level of confidence. So they're continuing to go back and forth. Stephanie. So while they're going back and forth, Adriana is like this. And Julia was like, and in Julia's confessional, she's like, "Did I start all this? You did. Well, you didn't start all of that, but you kicked it off with the bullshit." And what's funny is she says in her confessional, "I mean, did I start all of this by saying, 'Hey, it's nice to see you. We were just talking about you'?" You did not say any of that. You said we were talking about you. That was all that you said. If somebody greeted me with that, I would assume people were talking shit about me. Anyway, they're continuing to go back and forth with the whole doing all that. Alexia yells to Stephanie, "You're jealous. You're just bothered by my confidence." No. They're continuing to go back and forth. She's like, "You called me a big head. You called me Rottweiler. You called me Chihuahua." Very silly. Through that argument, though, it was like they worked out the issue because Alexia said in her confessional, she goes, "I'm the type, once I get it all out, I'm done. We can move forward." So in the scene, they apologize. They apologize to each other. And Stephanie admits that what she said about Todd wasn't cool. And she says, I didn't like that you were judging me and name calling me either. So they seem to be cool. I was right. These two are very similar because they both said at the same time in their confessionals that they don't hold grudges. So hopefully we'll see how well that works out. Stephanie says, I just want to have a good time in Spain. Alexia says the same. So they continue to enjoy their dinner. Um, Lisa finally arrives. Lisa finally gets there. She gets up to her room. And what's funny though is so she gets up and she meets with the other ladies. So she meets up with the other ladies being Alexia and Marisol. She comes in twirling, being all funny. "Hey guys." So they're like, "We're happy to see you, but what happened?" And she's like, whatever." And they're like, "No, what happened? Like, you didn't call anybody?" She's like, "Oh, pish posh. Let's worry about that later. I'm here. I'm in a positive mood." So of course, in Alexia's confessional, she's like, "Narcissist." What's crazy though? So Alexia's like, "You didn't think to like text us and let us know? Like, you literally said nothing." Well, it doesn't really matter. The fact that at one point she goes, "How? Like, why?" The fact that Lisa doesn't know that what she did was like not okay is weird. And she won't discuss what happened in which what made her late. We know what made her late. Her. But they tell her, like, "Listen, the other ladies were not happy about that. Like, you got to do better. What's going to happen tomorrow?" So, flashback to earlier at the dinner before Alexia and Stephanie got into it. Stephanie mentions that the next day they're going to this dressmaker's uh, shop or whatever, and she's customizing. Did she say flamenco dresses for each lady? And she said, Lisa can't be late because if she's late, she's not going to get a dress made. So Marisol's like, "Well, why don't we put her at the last appointment? That way she should make it." And Stephanie says flat out, if she doesn't show up or if she shows up late, she just won't have a dress. I agree. So of course, Marisol and Alexia are trying to explain this to Lisa, and and that's pretty much how the episode ends. Next week's going to be really interesting. This episode was kind of boring. I felt like not a whole lot happened, but again, I have a whole theory. I've said it in other reviews. Whenever they are, usually the episodes before a trip or the episode where it's the first day of the trip are always fillerish. This one was a little filler. We're seeing a little bit of the cracks because we know it's going to get popping next episode. Um, anyway, Real Housewives of Miami's, y'all. It's a trip. Anywho, happy Thursday. Be nice to each other. Stay hydrated. We're in the middle of a storm here in Maryland. Let's see how long it'll last. And let me get out of here and go return these videotapes.